Aussie Beach TV. You're watching Aussie Beach TV. You're watching Aussie Beach TV. The hottest girls you will ever see.
We're here today at Daisy Hill Koala Park in Brisbane with Ian R. Crane.
Hi Janaya, how are you doing?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm wonderful. It's a beautiful, beautiful location.
It really is. Tony Abbott has upset quite a few Aussie voters with his policies since taking over office as Prime Minister. What are your thoughts on the man who thinks he could take on Vladimir Putin?
Tony Abbott.
Tony Abbott.
I think I hold Tony Abbott in as much regard as I do David Cameron.
Yep.
They are both tools of those who think they are the rightful rulers of a planetary fiefdom.
Yep.
You know, Tony Abbott, David Cameron, John Keyes in New Zealand, Harper in Canada, Obama in the US. These are all puppets.
Yeah.
You know, they actually don't have an original thought in their head. I was actually speaking to somebody yesterday who has had some dealings with Tony Abbott.
Yep.
And they said, you know, that you can sit down with him and you can actually get the impression that he's a genuine guy. You know, he'll sit down and say, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think we can work with that. Yeah, that's real good. We'll take that on board.
Yep.
And then he'll go into another meeting and say completely the opposite. So, I mean, this is unfortunately the attitude of the politician.
Yeah.
They will say whatever it is that they think the audience that they're talking to wants to hear. I mean, basically, they've sold their soul.
Yep.
And as we've discussed previously, you know, what they do is they're looking to make the big bucks when they leave office.
Yep.
So they're looking to kiss the butt of the corporations.
Yep.
So they'll do whatever it is that they are lobbied to do by the corporations, and then when they leave office, they'll get a job in these corporations, earning mega bucks. I mean, look at Tony Blair. You know, since Tony Blair left office in the UK, he's become a multi-million, maybe even a billionaire.
Yep.
You know, because of all the work that he now gets outside of politics.
Yeah.
And sadly, you know, the days of politicians actually going into office because they have altruistic intent or even, you know, philanthropic intent are gone. You know, the vast majority, even if they do go into office with genuine intentions, they very quickly learn that if they want to retain their political office, they have to compromise, they have to prostitute themselves, and you know, do whatever the highest bidder asks of them. I mean, I've had the pleasure, I have to say, of meeting at least one politician, Australian politician in the LNP here in Queensland, who in my opinion demonstrates the utmost integrity.
Yep.
Yeah, I had the absolute pleasure of having a few conversations over the last couple of days with Jason Woodforth, who's an MP, I think, for a suburb of Brisbane.
Yeah.
And you know, it was an absolute pleasure to speak with somebody you know, who was clearly genuine, but understood the system, understood how, you know, he has to operate within the system, but he is operating in what I would term full fiduciary trust. In other words, he absolutely recognises that he's in public office to represent the people that elected him. And I think Jason has had a remarkable victory recently, because I think he's managed to get legislation introduced which gives local authorities the opportunity to decide whether or not their water supply is fluoridated.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is fantastic, and this is what we need. We need more politicians like Jason. Unfortunately, I've probably just made sure he doesn't get re-elected.
Okay, British Prime Minister David Cameron is a dick. What kind of is he going to come out with next?
I didn't realise that he was held in such high regard here in Australia.
Now, I am your master. The last thing this country needs is us, the Conservatives, worse than the alternative. We don't care if you're driven to despair. Don't you dare say it's not a fair. I'm not saying it's not funny. It is for me. I've got loads of money. This is the party of the motherfuckers the country is run. For me and my mothers, this is the party of the motherfuckers. We just don't care about the mother suckers.
He's actually not even held in that high a regard in the UK. I think that there's a lot of people in the UK who are looking forward to May the 7th next year, which is the UK general elections, and looking forward to running his butt out of number 10.
Yeah.
The biggest problem we have, and I mean, I know this is also an issue in Australia, and you know, my conjecture in Australia is that you don't elect governments. You elect governments out without actually considering what you're bringing in.
Yeah.
And then you pay the price when the next government's in, because they're actually worse than the one you just voted out.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we may be sort of coming into a similar type of situation in the UK, because whatever it is that we replace Cameron with is certainly not going to be any better. I mean, this is, again, this great disease that we've been really talking about. It's the thread of everything that we've been discussing in the many days that we've been sitting here in this beautiful forest.
Yeah.
His agenda is certainly not benevolent towards the British people. David Cameron, Obama, Harper, Keyes, Abbott, they are all puppets of the global corporatists.
Yep.
They will do whatever it is that they're told to do, which is why they are perpetrating this agenda to effectively contaminate the global water supplies. You couldn't make it up.
Yep.
I mean, who in their right mind would support an agenda, this hydraulic fracturing agenda, that is effectively on course to force water to a level of scarcity that is just unimaginable?
Yeah.
You know, where water becomes the highest priced commodity on the planet. And of course, we just can't function without it. We can't live without it. And they will just simply see that as collateral. You know, you can't afford to pay for your water? Oh, well, best die then. Yeah. And we're already seeing this in places like in Detroit, where the council there are bulldozing houses to stop the homeless moving into them. And then they're basically saying to the homeless, no, sorry, you can't afford your water. It's not a human right. So, you know, just go drink from a puddle if you can find one. And, you know, in Florida, we've got the crazy situation where a 90-year-old is arrested because he's feeding the homeless. You know, Florida has made it illegal to feed the homeless. But there's no work for these people, so how can they get an income? You know, the world produces more food every day than we need to feed everybody on the planet. The reason that we have so many starving is not because the food's not available, it's because they can't afford it. And the corporations would rather dump the food at sea or into landfill than give it away.
I think it should be that they should have a certain time when the companies finish at the day and just they're only going to throw it away anyway.
Absolutely, because, and the reason you think that way is because you're human.
Yeah.
You know, and you have this natural, inherent compassion for those that find themselves in a situation that's somewhat less fortunate than, you know, those who are able to feed themselves.
Oh, my daughter and I, we went out to dinner and we had the leftovers with us, and there was a homeless guy out front of that, and we gave it to him, and chocolate from the chocolate machine.
That's great.
Yeah, because I couldn't walk past without not. So.
And that's the natural human reaction, and yet that's what they're trying to drill out of us, that it's wrong to feed the homeless, and if you're a 90-year-old with compassion, then we're going to arrest you and threaten you with jail if you keep doing it. Which, I mean, I hope would actually encourage even more people to go out there.
They're trying to take every little human right away.
Well, look no further than an interview, and people can find this on YouTube.
Yep.
But there was an interview which was done with a guy called Peter Brabeck in 2005.
Yep.
And at the time, he was the chairman of Nestle. And in that interview, he made it very clear. He said that in his opinion, access to fresh water should not be regarded as a human right. And what he was basically saying is, unless you are contributing to the corporate payroll, then if you can't afford your water, then basically die. Which is exactly the same as Lang Hancock was saying when he was interviewed in 1984, when he was talking about the Aborigines. And he said the Aborigines that have assimilated into our Western lifestyle, all well and good, but those that haven't, let's start feeding them drugs so that we remove their fertility and they can't breed.
Okay.
So this is where we're heading. And this is why it's so important, Janaya, that people from all around the world start to take a look at what's occurring.
Yeah.
You know, and as I've said before, I know that when the Australian population gets the bit between its teeth and really starts seeing what's occurring, then they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So, you know, my counsel to the Australian public is, you know, she will be right, mate, but only if we all get involved and actually force the changes that we all know we need to see.
Yeah.
Because if we step back and just think she'll be right, then we've got a real problem.
Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has been under attack by the mainstream media lately. Why do you think this is so, and what are your thoughts on him as a leader?
I think Vladimir Putin is going to be recognised in history as one of the great statesmen of the early 21st century.
Yeah.
I think that Vladimir Putin is probably right now what is actually keeping the world away from World War III.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever that the global banksters are desperate to initiate another war.
Yeah.
They want to use this as an opportunity to get the rest of the world in so much debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is complete bullshit. I mean,
Yeah.
and who wants war?
Nobody
Have you
does.
ever met somebody who says, yeah, let's go attack? No.
No,
I mean,
everyone's got family they need to go home to, and like the last thing they want is death everywhere.
well, I think the
again.
only people, if these guys want war, they should go themselves.
Well, that's what I think. Instead of sending
The young men.
fathers out, yeah, exactly, away from their family, they're going to lose out on everything.
Exactly. You know, I mean, once upon a time, obviously in history, but if you had a leader who wanted to initiate a military attack, he led from the front.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, these guys are so far to the back, it's unreal.
I mean to say Tony Abbott put our military on a plane and sent them over, and he's just still over chilling out. doing nothing.
Yeah. Whereas Tony Abbott should be in the front row.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, unless the politicians are prepared to literally
Go to war.
then they shouldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
And the reality is that, you know, war is not natural to humanity.
No.
You know, the natural state for us is one of love and compassion.
Yeah.
And mutual cooperation.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, we are fed this constant fear porn that tries to get the people behind their leaders so they can initiate war. And who pays the price at the end of the day? The people.
Yeah,
You know,
everybody else, but not them.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
they still live their luxury lifestyle.
And their big houses and their big restaurants, and while we're all out here.
Their armoured cars,
Yeah.
where they hold meetings inside big ring chain fences. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
ludicrous.
Yeah.
So I think that one, I recognise the achievement of Vladimir Putin. I mean, I think, you know, he knows obviously the world's press, the Western press, are
Yeah.
demonising him, but his attitude is he's going to hold his truth. And you know what? Whoever would have thought that 30 years ago we'd be tuning to a Russian TV station to get the truth?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't encourage anybody to watch the BBC unless they want to literally see a whole bunch of diatribe and fantasy
Yeah.
put forward. If you want to get a handle on what's really going on, then tune into Russia Today, which is why the British government is looking to do everything it possibly can to stop Russia Today broadcasting within the UK,
Yeah.
because they know that more and more people are starting to tune to Russia Today. And why? Because more and more people know that Russia Today is actually putting out the truth.
Yeah.
And Russia Today isn't warmongering, unlike the BBC and, you know, the mouthpieces for the global corporations.
Yeah.
So I think that Vladimir Putin, and like I said before, you know, I'm not suggesting he's whiter than white,
Yep.
but nonetheless, I think that he is the guy right now who is keeping the world on the brink of war
Yep.
rather than at war.
Yep.
And I think, you know, that Vladimir Putin probably holds a few aces. I mean, I think that Russia needs to release the information that we all know it's holding about what really happened on 9/11.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that might be the game changer.
Yeah.
He's holding the ace, and I think that obviously the Western establishment, they know this, and they're desperate to try and prevent him from releasing this information. And it's such dynamite information that he's obviously not going to release it until it's absolutely necessary. You know,
Yeah.
it is literally a last card.
Yep.
But that's why I think that we probably won't end up going to war, and it will be thanks to Vladimir Putin.
Yep.
You know, if the producers of Russia Today are looking to reach out to new audiences in novel ways, then they could do a lot worse than making contact with Aussie Beach TV. Especially if RT is looking to set up a satellite station here in Australia, then you know, maybe Aussie Beach TV could be on point in reaching out to that new audience. Who knows?
I totally agree with you.
Stranger things have happened.
That's it.
Aussie Beach TV. You're watching Aussie Beach TV. You're watching Aussie Beach TV.
And it's easy on the ears and not too bad on the eyes either.
Aussie Beach TV.